Other thing, I want to talk about 5 steps to having a successful call, and it has a really good, couple of really good objections I think that'll help you guys. So 5 steps to a good call.
Hey, this is Blake Sloan. I've been selling real estate over 14 years. Our team of highly trained professionals, along with our unmatched marketing, has sold thousands of homes here in the Myrtle Beach area, and this is how we do it.
So what do you think the most important part is for initially? Right? Tonality, which is important, right? So it'll be what? My greeting. My greeting and my energy has to be clear in the beginning. So first piece is greeting / energy. Like, as we call it here, tonality. And that's the crazy part there, right? So I must come in there being prepared to overcome objections. And so there's key things I want you guys to write down. Is that agree, assure, transition. Agree, assure, transition. I think this will help you out a lot. I kind of laughed when I saw this. It's super good. So I get the call, right? And here's the crazy part. This is important. I talk about this all the time, but I have some data to back it up now. 89% of objections come from the greeting. I'll say it again. 89% of objections come from the greeting. Why? Your tonality states the purpose of the call. So if your tonality is very confident, like I'm supposed to be calling you, what happens? There's a lot less chance of having the objection, right? If I'm coming across as not energetic or not coming off with certainty, then their subconscious mind reads that and automatically throws me an objection out. You with me on this? And what we don't realize, which is why it's so important to record. I mentioned this the other day. You think you're doing great, but you've made 3 or 4 calls. You get 3 or 4 objections by somebody. Then all of a sudden, what happens to your inner tonality? It's down. And I think I'm doing good, but I know subconsciously I'm scared to make this call because I just got cussed out by somebody else. And so if you're not recording it, you don't hear that piece of you that sounds unsecure or insecure, right? Uncertain is a way to look at that, which is very important. So this is where agree, assure, transition comes. It's really cool. So if you get a thing, right? This is so simple. So what's one of the biggest objections you guys get when you call?
Stop calling.
Just looking, right? I'm just looking. So it's a great objection handler. So you get just looking. Here's what I want you guys to say. So how do we just, I want to agree, assure, transition. So they see you just looking. What do you say? Great. I totally agree. Excellent. Sorry, I totally agree. Excellent. Who wouldn't buy without looking and researching first? Then what do? Transition right back to the script. So I'm just looking. Great. That's awesome. Totally agree. That's excellent. Who wouldn't buy without looking and researching first? And then what do? Great. You guys looking to make a move next few months or whatever it is in that scenario. Or if they say, let's say you looking to make a move, they say, I'm just looking, right? Our script kind of controls it. If they're giving that objection, you're agreeing with them, you're assuring them that's the right thing, and you transition. We're getting this a lot on the seller side, right? I get a home value lead, and they say, well, I'm not selling, I'm just looking. And you say, great, I totally agree. That makes total sense. Who would ever sell their house without looking up the value and being curious about it first? If you ever were to move in the future, when do you think that may be? And you just roll right back into it, which is very, very important to us to do. Yep. And there's 2 ways to do that. You say, great, I totally agree. That makes total sense. Who would ever sell their largest asset without doing time to research and look before doing it? But let me ask you a question. If you had a cash offer that made financial sense, is that something to be open-minded to? Right? And you just roll back and feel their thing with that. I do think it's important, but I think what's happening sometimes we're trying to do what? Combat them with a question right afterwards, which is kind of lose-lose, right? And so I want to agree. I want to assure them that's the right thing, and then I transition. So very important. Hey, great, I totally agree. That's an excellent idea. Who would ever buy without looking and researching first? If you were to make a move, though, down the line, when do you think that may be? Well, I don't really have it. And then what happens is they always tell you what after that? The real answer. Always does when he does it. Hey, what do you guys think your house worth? They say $350,000. He says, great. What do you think it's really worth? And they'll say $300,000 every single time, right? And so it's one of those things that's important for us to do. So agree, assure, transition, which I want you guys to add that and role play this week on it, and then also make sure you're using it. Got a realtor. Great. That totally makes sense. There's 6,000 plus realtors in Myrtle Beach. If you don't know a realtor, you don't know anybody around here. right? But let me ask you this: are you 100% obligated to use that certain agent, right? Whatever it is in that scenario, which is very, very good to look at. I think I had that in there, right? Yeah, I totally understand, right? There's 6,000 agents here in Myrtle Beach, so everyone knows a realtor. Let me ask you a question: what is it they're not doing in their job that has you on my website? Super simple to do. Are you going to say, let me ask you a question: what part of their job are they not doing that has you on my website? Let me ask you this: what is it they're not doing? What part of their job are they not doing that has you on my website? And that automatically what? Assumes that they're not doing their job in some part. And what it does is then it creates doubt. Well, if they were doing their job, you wouldn't need my website. And just so you know, I love you on my website because now we're having a conversation about it. But my job is to make sure I help you, which they're obviously not doing. And so then I roll back into it. But for me to get to that point of that, I got to make sure I do what? Agree, assure, and transition. And then obviously part of my transition is always going to be what? Question. And the question is how I transition from me to them. Does that make sense for you guys there? Which is a super important piece there. Questions about that? Second piece is what we call fact-finding. And this is not necessarily the initial script. Like, this is just like other conversations, okay? So this is a universal 5 steps for a successful call. Obviously, for us, the most successful call is going to be a one-time close through the first script, right? But the second, third, fourth, fifth calls, this is where this is going to come in. You guys with me on this? All right, so fact-finding, right? Based on the quality of questions you have to move towards the next step, the possible objections determined by the level of professionals you have. So long story short, here's the crazy part I want you to take in. People buy or sell based on the fact that they have a problem to resolve. People buy or sell based on the fact they have a problem to resolve. So I want you guys to make sure when I go to the fact-finding phase, I got to understand and know that they have what? A problem to resolve. So they would not be on my website without what? A problem. They're going to tell you that what? They don't have a problem. They're just looking. And so that's okay. I'm going to play the game to win based on understanding that they're not going to tell me the full truth in that. So key part there, right? Second piece I want you guys to remember. People relate more on previous experiences, right? So for example, they're going to obviously go back to, hey, what do you have now that you need in your next home? What will be the perfect home there? What will be a perfect home for you if there is no price or no budget? So the key things I want you guys, I'm going to give you some questions, obviously, but here's what I'm leading to, right? I want you guys to understand they're going to relate more about previous experiences, and we're going to take that to the future. I'm going to show you how in a second, okay? It makes sense in a second. So there's key parts I want you guys to understand you're looking for. Looking for the what? So this is like when I have my second call to the person. They're a little bit standoffish, and I know I'm competing against everybody else. You guys with me on this? Same thing with the seller, same thing with the buyer. Relate more to past experiences. And how I'm doing that is through the what? The why and the how. So, very important. So I'm asking myself this question in how I have my conversation. What problem is this person going to resolve? So what problem needs to be resolved? So what am I doing here? I'm reading between the lines. You guys with me on this? What problem does this person need to resolve? So I'm thinking this while I'm asking questions, having a conversation with them, like, what's the real problem they're not telling me that they're trying to resolve, which is super important here to look at, which I think is very, very good. Why does anyone buy anything? So for example, what's their main problem? What's the why behind it? You guys with me on this? So the main problem can be what? I only have 2 bedrooms. I have a kid on my way. Me and my wife are cramped up. Or me and my wife live with my mother-in-law. So the what is that we're living with mother-in-law, right? Why is that a big issue? Because it's having a problem on my relationship. You guys with me on this? The problem is that it's very cold up north in Ohio, right? The why is I want to get out and live a little bit and be able to enjoy my life in my retirement years. You guys with me on this? So there's 2 parts of this, but they're connected. Does that make sense? Yeah. I'll give you a million different examples. Selling, right? I want to get back closer to family. So what? Just had 2 grandchildren. Why is that? Well, I want to be back closer so I experience those years with them. You guys with me on? So I want to understand, like, hey, they're going to tell you that what? Well, I'm at the top of the market, I just want to cash out. We all know that. I need to go deeper to understand what's the real reason why they were on my site. You guys with me on that? And the how is how do we resolve this? So does that selling? That means selling? I mean buying? What does it mean? So how do we resolve this? Which is important to look at overall from that standpoint. Questions about that? Now, here's the crazy part. What are some of the biggest mistakes you think you'll make? What are the biggest mistakes here? So what's that page? The biggest mistake is we don't ask the questions, right? So we tend to assume it, or we tend to be scared to ask the right questions. And so the key part here, right, is you got to make sure you ask really good questions. And if you don't ask, you don't know. Most people, here's their main problem, is they don't ask, right? They don't ask relevant questions, or they ask awful questions. And awful questions mean it's all about them. You got to make sure everything's about them. So I got to make sure what? I'm asking what? Quality questions here. So that's what we call sales IQ. Like if you're just asking if it doesn't matter, you're not getting to the place that you're trying to get to. With me on that? Which is very, very important for us to make sure that remember overall with that. So I'm going to give you guys a couple quality questions I want you to write down. If you want to record it, you do that too. I can't write all these down. But number one, what would you like to have now if a budget would not be part of the process? What would you like to have, you can say, in your next house if budget were not part of the process? What are you looking there? Looking to have them do what? Dream a little bit, open up a little bit, get them excited about what's going on, and they can open up to what they really desire going forward. Because the key part is I might be able to get that for them. And if I can't, that's okay. I told them the budget obviously wasn't part of the process.
What would you like to have in your next house if the budget wasn't part of the process?
Yeah. What would you like to have in your next house, condo, investment, whatever it is, if a budget was not part of the process? You can simplify that if you want, but that's a key way to look at it. Number two, what you must have now that you're not willing to give up. So what do you have now that you must have in your next house you're not willing to give up? This is one I never asked. I thought it was a really good one. So what do you have now that you're not willing to give up? That's a great question. And what does that show them when you ask? That you care. So what do you have now in your current living situation that you're not willing to give up in your next one? No, that's very, very good going through that. What do you want in the next home that you don't have right now? See, this is much deeper than just a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a picket fence, right? And here's the next question is, what do you think is the next question you can ask? Yes. Why? Why is that important? And what that's going to do is start to tell me what? The problem. They're going to unload a little bit based on what their current issue is overall.
Ask a question.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you ask that why after each one of those?
You could. You just got to be careful if they feel like you're grilling them.
Right.
So I want to make.
How you say it.
Yeah, if you have the deep, if you have deep rapport with them, yeah. But if I'm like going on the line, why is that important? And ask the question, why is that important? They're going to feel like they're getting interrogated a little bit, and it doesn't feel like it's genuine. Does that make sense? But yes, if you want to pick 2 questions or so to say that, yeah, what I like to say, great, that makes total sense. Why is that important? That's one way to do that. You know what I mean? I always say, great, that makes sense. Why is that important to you? So I don't want to go too deep, too much, but that's a very, very important thing to look at in that scenario, right? So I'm looking here for questions that get this person thinking what they value, why they value it, and why they need it. So I'm going to give you that. What they value, why they value it, and why they need it. And what I'm doing there also is I'm moving them forward in the commitment process, and as a husband and wife goes to that, I ultimately expose what? How they're not that happy in their current situation, they really need something else. And the seller side do the same exact shit. Just flip side. You guys with me on this? Very, very important piece there with that. Also, other question stuff, right? Yeah. Here's another really good one. Is it what do you not want based on previous experience? Like, what do you not want based on previous experience? That's a very, very good one there too, right? but I want you guys to write this down, which is very valuable, is who gets answers controls the conversation. So that's the key part there with me. That's there, right? Key part with that. Third piece here, number 3. This guy just kind of, I went ahead of it a little bit, but that's part of number 3. Number 3. So I want to demonstrate transparency in the process. What does that mean, you think? Demonstrate transparency in the process. What's that?
That you're actually listening.
Yeah, and I want to explain to them, like, why. Like, I'm asking these questions, I care about you. I want them to understand, look, I'm not here to grill you. I'm here to help because I care about you and the outcome. Man, I need them to do what? To feel it.
Relax and be open, yeah.
Yeah, like this is a conversation. Because what happens if they feel like you're grilling them, they're going to do what? They're going to shut down immediately, right? So my part there is to make sure I'm doing that from a place of transparency in the process. Look, I'm just trying to see how I can help you. I know for most people, it's one of the largest assets they're going to buy or sell their entire life. And so I want to really understand the true why behind that so I can help you guys make the right decision. And that more importantly, I can help lead you the right direction as the expert in this field. And what are they going to do? Trust me, right? I just told them I'm asking the questions, and I did that with care and guidance, which is, they're going to think, wow, that makes sense. I need this guy or this lady to guide me, and so I probably need to answer the questions. Key part there with that. This is where a lot of people screw up here. I'm going to come back, and this is what I'm going to teach on the most, and I went a little over time. But number 4 is then I got to do what? I got to trial close. What's a trial close? What's trial close? It's a close before the close, right? It's what a lot of people call a temperature check overall. Specific questions to basically try the close. So here's a great one. We talk about this on a scale of 1 to 10. How close is this home to the one you imagined? Scale of 1 to 10. It's a home that you imagine. You can say the same thing on the seller side. Ren, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how does this compare to the real estate agent that you imagine in your mind? On a scale of 1 to 10, how well does this system compare to the perfect real estate agent in your mind? And what do they say? Let's say he says a 7. Yeah, let me ask you this. What's the difference between a 7 and a 10 to you? And then what does he do?
Tells you.
Tell me exactly how to sell them. That's why the trial close is so important. So I'm not to the final close. I don't ask him about being his real estate agent, his listing agent. Say, let me ask you this, Mr. Seller. On a scale of 1 to 10, how does what you've seen so far compare to the perfect real estate agent in your mind? 5. Great, no problem. I appreciate that. Let me ask you this, Mr. Seller. What's the difference between a 5 that you have and a 10 in your mind? What's missing? And he or she's going to tell you. And then what do? The rest of your entire presentation is all designed to do what? Go from 5 to 10. Oh, it's great. I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't sure if that was important to you. We actually do this. Let me show you on the website how you go right to whatever it is. But that's why the trial close is so important versus going right to the close at the end without having those questions tied in. So I want you guys to use that 1 to 10 a lot. You can use it for your agent. You can say basically the perfect home, the house you imagine in your mind, the perfect real estate agent you imagine in your mind, whatever it is in that scenario with that. And then at that point, I present solutions to their problems, right? Overall with that scenario, right? Key part there, number 5, obviously, if there's a telephone call, I'm searching for the appointment. So I close for the appointment. A great reminder that's super important right now is that if you're with a buyer, you want to get to on a virtual as fast as possible if they're not local. People are still hesitating that. The problem is the market is leaving you behind. Your competition is getting people on virtual and signing them. So you got to make sure you do the same thing or that person you like is going to come across a closer, and that closer is going to get them on a presentation on a Zoom, and guess what they're going to do? Close your people. But because you didn't go with the times, they're going to pass you and take your clients from you. It's happened to probably 5 or 10 a week in our office right now. Okay? It's a thing that the world has changed overall with that, which is important. Now, after I do the appointment, I want to make sure this is a key part, we're missing this a lot, is I want to create the expectation of what's going to happen next. So, and you're pretty good at this for the most part, but I'll let that, hey, you're going to receive a text or a video, right? Receive text or video, right? With instructions, whatever it is, like you want to do there. You're going to send a calendar invite. One thing you want to do, a lot of times you can do is you can also send client testimonials when? Before the appointment, which I think a lot of people are missing out on that. And then you're going to text call prior to the appointment to remind them. And then ultimately, what you're going to do at the very end is remind them what we're going to talk about. So, key part there, right? So make sure you guys are, so a lot of people are doing that. One question that we started asking, that AI starts asking too, hey, is there any reason that you wouldn't be able to make the appointment on Tuesday? Right? And you can frame that up in a couple different ways. Hey, we're going to spend a lot of time and energy preparing for the appointment, make sure everything goes smooth and easy for you. Is there any reason that you think you wouldn't be able to make the appointment? Great. I need you to make sure you're there, and we'll be quick and easy. And then you resell them while they're meeting you. Does that make sense? But if your no-show rate is very high, you're not selling them enough to sizzle on the back end.